Guys, what's up? RJ Game News USA here, and I just got out of the theater. I watched the movie Him. It's a football horror movie. This is like mixing hot sauce and ice cream for me because I love football, I love horror movies, and I had to see how this turned out. So I want to talk about that today. There will be spoilers, just fair warning. Like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And let's just jump right into it. So first of all, I have to talk about my expectations. My expectations for this movie going in was this was going to be a pretty good movie. Especially considering the fact that you have Jordan Peele behind it. He was behind the movie Us, the movie Get Out. And both those movies were pretty freaking good. Especially Get Out in particular. So I expected a rock-solid movie. And a rock-solid movie we got. I got everything I was kind of wanting. However, it didn't go over the top. Overall, I got to give it an 8 out of 10. And that's what I was expecting going in, was an 8 out of 10. So, let's just talk about the premise a little bit. So, you have this kid who was growing up. He's watching his favorite quarterback play. They don't use real NFL teams or anything. And he sees his favorite quarterback break his leg, but they win the championship. Well, he goes on, Isaiah White, the quarterback he idolized, goes on to win 8 championships. And towards the end of his career, this kid, Cam, he grows up. He wants to follow in his footsteps. He's sort of being pressured by his dad to do so. And then he ends up going and being recruited to stay a week at Isaiah's house. And a bunch of weird shit happens. Even before he gets to Isaiah's house, he gets a weird head injury. And then while he's there, you have a whole bunch of unprofessional, like, crazy shit going on. And eventually does culminate, and this is a huge spoiler, in Cam killing Isaiah and to become the GOAT. Because the blood flowed between one GOAT to another in each generation. And so this was a ritual that was supposed to be done. The last 15 to 20 minutes, the movie went absolutely bonkers and haywire, like I hope it would. And at the very end, I was very pleasantly surprised to see Cam disregard his contract, not sign it, and then kill everybody else. And he found out that, like, the agents, the owners, his dad, his family, everybody around him that had been prepping him to be a football star was in on this, controlling his life, forcing him into this life. And he said no and fought against it at the end here. And to be completely frank, I was very satisfied with the ending and the outcome. I do think the movie runtime's a little short. I do think it's a little briskly paced, and it could have used a little more at the ending, maybe. Although I didn't hate the ending, I did like the ending. More could have been done, of course, but I'll take it as is. When it comes to the characters, I thought that our lead was really quiet, and that's really sort of a negative, but the silent protagonist also works in a way. He's letting all these other people around him speak for him and speak about him, and that sort of feeds into the theme of the movie. Of course, with my intricacies and my knowledge of football itself, seeing how this movie played out, it was a very similar experience that you would expect in the NFL, and considering the real life things that happen in the NFL and the occult, it sort of touched and hit home on things that people try to turn a blind eye to. They even make reference to them betting on Cam's youth. And you know what? There's a funny story not that long ago, a few years ago. Tom Brady and C.J. Stroud had a famous bet where if Michigan beat Ohio State, Tom Brady would get C.J. Stroud's youth. And if Ohio State had beat Michigan, C.J. Stroud would actually have won a Super Bowl ring from Tom. And, of course, I believe Tom won that bet. So, very interesting, like, parallels here. Obviously, it's not a complete parallel. They didn't cast some white guy that looked like Tom Brady to be the GOAT. They cast an African-American guy and another African-American guy, which of course I have no problem with. I have no problem with the made-up teams or the made-up scenarios, because it's really hard to get a licensing deal going on. Now, if this happened to be Brady has your lead villain and Patrick Mahomes has your hero or whatever that ends up slaughtering everybody at the end, I would have absolutely lost my goddamn mind. I would have thought that would have been terrific. Of course, they would have never signed up for that whatsoever. No way. Surprised we couldn't get Travis Kelce in this movie somehow, knowing him. But anyway, I thought this was a pretty accurate representation of the NFL and a pretty good way to tie it into a horror movie. There was also an aspect of how much of this really happened in front of them versus how much of this was some sort of warning about a concussion or a CTE injury. And we did find out they kept it in the realm of reality. They easily could have made this movie where this guy was just like seeing hallucinations because of his concussion. And then you find out later he just killed a bunch of people randomly that were innocent. And they didn't go that route. They went with it being real. And I'm okay with that, too. I'm okay with it going the other way as well. Again, there's a lot of questions we don't have answers to. They kept some things ambiguous for a reason. Usually I have a problem with some ambiguity. But in this case, I was fine with it because I was satisfied enough with the ending that I thought it wrapped up in a nice, neat little bow. For the most part, it didn't have to explain every supernatural element or not, or how the crazed fans might have tied into that or not. What was real, what was not real. They really kept that ambiguous to some degree, which in this case actually seemed to work for them. I think if I had to put it up against the movie Us, I think it's a little better than the movie Us. Us was a good movie. I think it's not as good as Get Out. And so yeah, I think this is Jordan Peele's probably second, maybe third best outing. I'm really excited to see if they do any more with these kind of movies, like a basketball horror movie or a hockey horror movie, or if it's just played out at this point. But I'm glad someone finally made the attempt. It's not the movie I thought about, but it's the movie we deserved. It's not the movie I wanted necessarily, but it's the movie we needed right now. So yeah, very pleasantly surprised. 8 out of 10. Highly recommend it. But of course, if you just watched this review and got spoiled, all apologies. It's been out 5 days, so I think that the spoiler alert is... I said spoiler alert. I said my piece. Hopefully you've already seen it, or you watched this review after you've seen it. Anyway, leave your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you all for watching. And again, I appreciate all of you very much. I will see you all very soon. See ya.